Welcome to Skills Not Pills movement, another live with one of our experts from the Skills Not Pills Summit that is in May, all month long. 30 days, 30 experts, 30 skills, and you can still sign up for that summit and you can share this all out. This is great that you're tuning in live and participating with us. And you can check it out at skillsnotpillsmovement.com is where to sign up for this summit. But today we're going to actually get some great free content. All of it's free content, but we're going to get some free content live today on Facebook from Debbie. Really excited to have her with us. She is she's into empowering women, which I love, and empowering moms, which I also love, being because I'm a mom and a woman. And she's a natural health enthusiast, and she's an award-winning author, social worker, and empowerment guide. So she's the Chief Empowerment Officer for her company, Empowering Energy, which helps awaken women to vibrant and powerful version of themselves that they were always meant to be. Her mission is to spread peace and harmony on the planet, one mom at a time. And, you know, she really, this is one of the reasons why I've known Debbie for, I don't know, over a year now. Debbie, is that about right?
Yeah, it's probably coming up on 2, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it seems like I've known you forever.
We
So
probably have.
so glad to have you on the show today. And I know that we really wanted to get in some tips and skills for people today.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit of just a brief share about yourself so people who haven't met you before, they might find out something new about you. And then we'll get into some of those skill sharing that you wanted to do.
Okay. So as you already told them, I have a company called Empowering Energy. And really, my whole focus is to help people awaken to whatever they're doing that is stopping them from living the life that they can absolutely love and enjoy. And so I'm all about helping people to stand in their power at work, at home, at play, whatever happens to be going on for them. And I do that because this is something that I have needed a constant reminder in my own life. So we tend to teach what it is we're learning, and that is true for me. I'm constantly dealing with things that I need to then remind myself, all right, so am I standing in my power? Where am I giving my power away? How am I making this harder on myself? So that really is what I'm all about.
That is so great. That's one of the reasons why I love you. And you have a lot of self-honesty, which I think is so great as well. You were talking,
Yeah.
I interviewed for Soul Nectar show, and you were talking about, um, just being really honest with yourself when you fell from that chairlift, that in the ski, and you're like, I brought this on myself. I mean, that's just such an honest thing to really admit. Anyway, if you guys want to know that story, you've got to tune into Soul Nectar show. So get you coming and going with Gary Hummingbird. So we wanted to talk about, today we wanted to talk about how to use your energy wisely, some tips around using your energy wisely, and tuning into your natural guidance system. Because whenever you have something sort of big and powerful happen in your life that is sort of maybe feels undesirable, like today's tax day in the United States. And so I can definitely say in this moment, I've had an undesirable experience today at H&R Block. So not that they didn't do a good job, they did a great job, but just, undesirable experiences and getting a diagnosis and making these big decisions about your health when you have an authority figure sort of telling you, oh, well, you have this thing and the prognosis is this prognosis, and this is what you have to do in order to deal with it or cope with it or whatever. When you have that, it kind of is one of those big impending, like, doom-like quality experiences. And you can lose a lot of energy when you face that kind of thing. You can feel yourself being sort of threatened by this thing that's happening out here,
Absolutely.
right? It's very
And
threatening.
shutting down. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was noticing it in myself. I was like, breathe, Carrie, you know don't stop breathing. So tell us some of your tips and strategies for how to use your energy wisely when confronted with those kind of things, and then we'll get into some of the tuning into your natural guidance system for next steps.
Okay. So in the summit, I'm going to be giving 5 different tips, and are 5 different categories, I guess I should say. And these categories are huge, right? So what I find is you can say the 5 categories and it sounds simple and it sounds logical and it can make a person think like, okay, that's all I need to do. But here's the thing, they're huge categories. And so that's why I thought, okay, let me share some tips that fit within those categories, because there's just so much that you need to do. So first of all, when I talk about energy, half the time I'm really talking about natural, realistic guidance, the 3 letters, NRG. That's where my business name comes from, and that's what I'm always focused on. And so when it comes to really tuning in to your natural guidance, which we're going to talk about, I think you wanted to do that one second. So when it comes to that, you really want to start waking up to what's going on for you. So let me give you some tips that will help you to understand where you might be draining your energy rather than using it wisely, as you had suggested. Okay? Does that make sense? Awesome.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Okay. So one of the big things you mentioned about the diagnosis, let's just pretend for the rest of this time together that you've just gone into the doctor's office and you've been given a diagnosis either for yourself or your child. So for the sake of making this easy, let's say that you've gone in and found out that your 3-year-old is in fact autistic. And the doctor is saying to you that your child is never going to be verbal and they're never going to have that normal social experience with other people. And so it is really common for us to receive that news. And often in the first few seconds, we have a kind of sense of relief because we knew something was wrong. But so far, people have been telling us, no, everything's fine. Right. And so you get the diagnosis, and there can be this sense of relief followed by this immediate feeling of panic. And for a lot of us, we right away go into that thinking of, oh, if only, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? Where am I going to go with this? I can't do this. I didn't sign up for this. I'm not equipped for this. And I don't know if you can feel it as I'm saying those things, but that's just draining your energy away,
Yeah, I
right?
can relate to this because I was feeling that way and it's not that long ago. Like
Yeah.
there's this
Well,
huge insurmountable, challenge, or obstacle, or, you can feel like, how am I ever going to face this thing?
yeah, so we start doing all the if onlys, right? And here's the thing, when we start if onlying and thinking about, oh, if I hadn't done this, if only I could have come in sooner, if I had done that, we're putting all our energy into the past. We can't do anything in the past. Now, the flip side of that is we also will start putting our energy into the what ifs, right? What if this happens? What will I do? How will I handle this? And that's the future. So the real trick is to pull yourself back into the moment, the now, which is where your power always, always is. And instead, focus your energy there. So how do you do that? You do that again with your questions, because that tends to be how our mind works, right? So if you can start thinking in terms of, I wonder. I wonder is a beautiful way to awaken the universe to try to help give you answers, right?
Like, I wonder how this situation's gonna work out, or I wonder what I'm gonna learn. I
Yeah.
wonder what I'm being taught from this situation. I wonder what skills I'm working on.
Yeah, I wonder what I can learn from this. I wonder how I'm going to do it. I wonder what life is going to be like a few years from now. You know, that kind of thing. Can you feel the difference from that energy of, how am I going to do this? I can't do this. I don't want to do this, compared to, okay, this is where I'm at. So all I can do is wonder. And it's such a simple little thing. It's just semantics, right? But it changes our whole way of thinking. And instead of going into that place where everything's limited and frustrating and scary, it kind of removes us and puts us in a place of, huh, I wonder what's about to happen. So that
Yeah,
is one tip.
that's definitely a great tip because you can kind of feel the fear sets in when you do the other thing. Like, and
Yeah.
I think the immediate reaction is fear. It's like, this thing's going to be too big, too scary, too bad, and to confront. And then it's also, it's like all those limited thinkings, kind of like
They
believing
pile in.
believing all of it, like, and then the doomsday, and then pretty soon you're like, well, I might as well just give up, you know?
Yeah. Well, very true. And I love to teach people that events themselves are neutral, right? There's nothing good or bad about anything that happens. We assign it meaning. And I have this parable, which I won't share because it can take a little bit too much time, but I'll just give you the gist of it, that I love to use to help people recognize that events are neutral. Okay. And that is, it's a Chinese farmer and his son who lived many, many, many years ago. And they had a prize stallion. The prize stallion jumped the fence, ran away, and the neighbors all decided this was bad. This was very bad. And the farmer said to them, maybe good, maybe bad, we'll see. Well, about a week later, the horse comes back, brings with it a whole bunch of mares, and the neighbors all decide this is very good. And the farmer says, maybe good, maybe bad, we'll see. And as the parable unfolds, the farmer's son breaks his leg by trying to train some of these mares, and the neighbors all say it's bad, and he says, let's wait and see. And on goes the story. And I won't tell you the ending because I don't want to ruin the parable for you if you want to look it up. But what I want you to understand is that by refusing to put his energy into deciding if something was good or bad, he instead was able to deal with the situation as best he could. Right? And so when we stop seeing this as, oh, this is bad, this is really bad, we right away plug the drain, and then we can start to instead fill ourselves up and help ourselves to be at our best. And that's all we can ask for, right? You can't necessarily wave your magic wand and the diagnosis will be gone. But by plugging that hole, you can now start to create the absolute best life that you can have given that situation. And I think a big part of your story, and certainly many of the stories you're going to hear on this summit, are about people that did that kind of thinking and then were able to actually heal themselves as a result. So the outcome can be absolutely wonderful and way more than you ever thought it would be.
Yeah, and you can learn a lot from the experience, however uncomfortable it might be, or seemingly undesirable.
Yes. Well, and what I tell people is if you take a coin always has two sides, right? And so if you put on that coin good on one side, bad on the other, right, wrong, awesome, awful, then the other side's always just a flip away. So why not choose to flip the coin over
Yeah,
and go don't try to decide that it's awesome instead of awful. Instead say, you know what? Maybe good, maybe bad. We'll see. I don't know where that coin's going to go. It can change all the time.
absolutely. It changes all the time, depending on,
Yes,
what meaning you assign to it.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so great. So that's one really good skill for changing the energy around when you're faced with something very uncomfortable that initially seems like something you would not want to have happen.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, yeah, that's a very good story. I could tell many stories about this. I was thinking about my bathrooms exploding earlier this year. Like, I definitely, at the time that my bathroom ceiling was flooding, from the bathroom upstairs, I definitely was standing there thinking, this is a very bad thing,
Yes.
And, as it turns out, I'm now, when I go into any one of my remodeled bathrooms, I go, wow, this is a very good thing. And I look at my floors that I have now, my new flooring in my bedrooms, and I'm like, this is wonderful. I got all new floorings and I got new bathrooms because this thing happened. And now all the energy shifted in my house and it's pretty nice. So I'm saying
Yeah.
thank you.
Exactly, exactly. And so, I mean, when we choose that something is bad, we draw all that negative to us, right? And we make it so much harder, so much worse. And so, if we can just remain neutral and go, you know what it is, and see what is coming our way, we're not throwing all that energy into it being bad and making it bad.
Yeah, exactly. And then resisting it and being upset about it and all the emotions that come and getting in the story about why, then it brings up all the past story of, well, see, this is just more example of me being mistreated, or whatever the story.
Yeah.
I'm an expert at this, by the way. I have been an
Oh,
expert at this in my life. So I'm now
yeah.
choosing the next tack. So tell us a little bit about tuning into your natural guidance, because for me, I noticed that once I change the energy around to like, okay, this must be for me because it's happening. So,
Mhm.
you know, well, how can I open up to learn from it? Then it's easier to get into the natural guidance part because I'm not in so much resistance.
Yes. Although it's one of those chicken egg things, okay? Because your natural guidance system is that part that most of us have detached from, right? From very young. I think you have a word for it, being domesticated. Oh,
Yes.
is that what you call it,
Yeah,
being
that's been a
domesticated?
Toltec training. My Toltec training, the Four Agreements. If you guys haven't read that book, I'm going to say it to you every single broadcast. The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz.
Okay.
Please read it.
Yes. Yeah. So we start to detach from our natural guidance from a very young age. So typically by the time you're about 5, for sure by the time you're 7, but usually younger than that, you have already detached from that side of yourself that isn't the very human feeling ego self. And when you detach from that natural side of yourself, which is your connection to the divine, but I'm careful using that word because I don't want people to think I'm talking religion here. I'm talking about that other piece of yourself that is kind of connected to everything. Okay. When you disconnect from that side, then the ego has no choice but to be more and more and more involved. And that means that you detach from all the good information, all the important information that comes from your natural guidance system, which is everything from your inner wisdom, your intuition, even your resiliency. We're born resilient, but we disconnect from it. We start covering it up with all this goo, and we start to live in a state of fear because without your connection to your resiliency, you can't feel like you can handle everything, whatever life throws your way, like you can handle it. And when you get into that space, then life becomes very, very scary. So we want to connect with our natural guidance system. Sorry, my phone is deciding I'm talking to it.
I've had that happen
Siri
before.
keeps turning on.
Siri, we don't want you right now.
So I haven't turned off volume, but Siri still thought she should chip in. Anyway, yeah, so when we reconnect with that natural guidance system, we're much better able to hear our inner wisdom, the information that is there to guide us and to help us, instead of, say, the inner critic, which is more that human side that is telling us, no, don't do it, stay away, don't. It's trying to scare you and keep you in your safe little comfy zone, even when it's super uncomfortable and you hate being there. It'll keep you there because that feels like a happy place to be. So there's lots of neat little tips that you can do. And one of them that I often share is I ask people to think of their ego, the human side that feels, that fears, all that kind of stuff, to separate it from their higher self, or whatever they want to call it, their soul side, their essence, that piece that's connected to the divine. And then just very simply every day as you go to do something, maybe you're going into a meeting, maybe you're going to see this doctor, whatever, ask your higher self to be in charge and tell your ego to sit. That's simple. Just simply separating them just that little bit in your mind can help you to start feeling that there's these pieces that make you you. And by doing that, then you can start to become aware of the feelings, the ego feelings, like when you're getting angry, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, you're getting defensive at what the doctor's saying. All of those are ego pieces. So when you feel feelings threatening to take over, you do need to process feelings, but not in that moment, not when you're right there with the doctor, right? You can instead remind your ego, sit, ego, higher self, come in. so so it's such a simple little trick, and I learned it many many years ago now, a speaker that I don't remember who it was, and I started to do it, and I was amazed at how it progressed and how I started to then be able to actually call in my higher self and access my intuition clearly, instead of thinking, well, I don't know if that was my intuition or my inner critic or what. I don't know how to tell the difference. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm sitting here now thinking, how, let me do that right now in this moment. I actually, I think that when the ego is trying to solve the problem, when the ego isn't connected or doesn't know, if you're not opening to that other side of you that connects with all that is, it's sort of like your higher self or however you want to see it. When you're not connecting with that, you can get the sense when you're just all in ego that like you have to do everything yourself. And that's
Yes.
where all the fear comes in, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so small. How am I going to do all this?
Yes.
It can be very frightening to live that way. I definitely lived that way. And then it can also be like a lot of energy to be pushing things through all the time, like forcing things through without like the bigger picture. And it's almost like your will center, which is like right in the middle of your abdomen, gets super overworked when you're doing that, because it's like the
Mhm.
only muscle that's being used when you're in ego mode is the will center. It's like, just think of it like you can't, if you have like 6 gears or 7 gears and you're only using one of them, it's going to get worn out, right? It's going to get super tired, and it's going to start impacting all the other gears, so the will
Yes.
center being one of those gears. So I've had to learn how to like slow down to speed up.
Mhm.
It's a big lesson. It's like when you get this kind of information, first is like sit with it for just a moment and open, like get yourself open again, right? Because we talked about that. The energy is like going like this, like down into the
Down
cave.
down the drain.
Like
It's like you
everything
pulled
is,
the plug and it's whoosh. Yeah.
like everything is gonna suck, like, and then poor me starts and I'm too small and I just powerless, and then the whole thing begins like that, to recognize, okay, I need to stop now. Maybe I need to get to connect with something bigger than me. So I like the earth because the earth is right here.
Absolutely.
So I
Mhm.
like to go outside and be with the earth and like connect with that, which is bigger than me. And then from that place, go, okay, I open myself back up. And it's really a vulnerable moment, that opening self back up.
It is.
It's like, okay, I'm going to open to possibility that this isn't a punishment. It feels like a punishment. I'm going to open that maybe I need it. Maybe there's something here for me. I don't know
Mhm.
what it is. I don't understand. I'm going
I
to
wonder.
open. I wonder. And then you can get to I wonder. And
Yes.
then you can start, I wonder why, and that's when the admittings come in,
Yes.
and the admittings are hard for the ego. The ego doesn't like the admittings.
Well, because you're putting yourself out there, and that's scary for the ego. The ego is saying, no, 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 we cannot do that. Imagine, if you will, your dog, having your dog look after your household. Right? The dog is not equipped to do that. And neither is your ego self. It is meant to be half of the puzzle. So it's a very important part. It gives you the human experience. So you don't want to diss it and get rid of it or kick it when it's down or anything like that either. But you do want to help it, and it's the higher self, or that other side of you, that's able to shift into the objective. And I think you even talked about this on a previous Facebook live for the summit, the whole idea of being able to go into that objective place where you can look at what's going on without taking it personally, where you can say, all right, this is happening for me, not to me. I wonder what it's about. Is that whole shift in your mindset that allows you to get out of the defensive and really hear whatever is going on. It's also where great questions come up, where you can say to the doctor, so what about, this? And that question is coming from your intuition, that you're now able to hear it, right?
Yeah,
And so
and you
you're
can
able to ask
also
that.
maybe not accept everything at face value. Like,
Absolutely.
You know, because when you're in the ego mode, you know, you're like, oh, I've been caught being bad, you know, or whatever. Just that piece. And if
Yeah.
you can open back up to soul, the soul place is a place of power because your soul is just like, well, that's interesting. Let me check myself to see if I agree with that to start.
Yes. Does it
Does that
resonate?
even resonate as truth within me?
Yes.
And, you know, so there's a lot of skills building around d- discernment and working with the ego and figuring out resonance. Like resonance is not always a simple process to understand how your resonance works, I've found,
No. No, it's
because the
not.
ego does like to resist things. And so sometimes the truth could be right there and their ego will be like, I don't agree with that. It's not resonating with me. You know? It is something to be looking at, you
Yeah.
know. So
You know, Carrie, I have to say the way you said that, that is such a beautiful picture. Because when ego talks, I don't know that I believe in that. You know, there's attitude, there's
it's attitude.
bolding. You know, if you were writing it out, you would bold it, you would italicize it, you'd put an exclamation point. When it's your intuition talking to you, there's never any emotion at all. It's simply saying, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't work for us. Like that doesn't ask about this. And there's no emotion involved. So I love that you put in that little wiggle
The
that comes
wiggle.
with your ego, because it is. And that's one of the ways that you start to identify where it's coming from. Because when that's in there, when there's attitude, then you know for sure it's ego. It can be your inner critic, which is tightly tied to your ego. You know, the two of them work together. But that's how you identify the difference. And people say to me all the time, well, I don't understand when that voice or that thought comes from my critic versus when it's my inner wisdom. And I go, well, it's pretty simple. Write it down. And if you'd put any bolding, underlining, exclamation mark, any attitude at all, it's inner critic
Yeah,
or
it's
ego.
resistance.
Yeah.
It's not wanting to look at it. Whereas if when you finally open back up, when you get yourself in that open, like I am safe, I am held, this is an uncomfortable thing that's happening right now that I don't
Yes.
understand. And if I open and I get in a clear space and I actually like just release it and I'm listening, when you can get into listening mode, usually something comes through that makes total sense. Like, oh, that's why.
Uh-huh.
Or, oh,
I
I
get it
I
now.
gotta look at this. Or, oh, that's right. I didn't take care of these things. Or, you know, you can kind
Hmm.
of start to see the truth of whatever it was that you weren't looking at or not handling, or you can start to see like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to go explore this piece or that piece,
Yeah.
you know. So
Sometimes it's even a simple, I misread that. I misunderstood, you know,
yeah,
what you're trying to say, because you've gotten all defensive. You've put up a wall to try to protect you from what they're saying. And with that wall there, I love what you're saying about the whole opening up, because when the wall is there, there's some good pieces coming through if you're willing to listen to it. Sometimes what's coming through is the information of what you don't want to do. Sometimes there's great pieces in there. So it's important to open yourself up, to stand firmly in your power while still allowing the good stuff to come through, because there's lots of good information out there too that the people, whoever it is that you happen to be talking to who's wearing that lab coat, can help you with. So,
yes, absolutely,
mhm.
absolutely. Well, really great wisdom. Thank you for, sorry. Thank you for sharing with us today your wisdom on these 2 points. Really good. And
You're
as you
welcome.
guys can tell, there's like this like really great stuff here, and there's even more great stuff on the summit.
Mhm.
We've had a great interview already that's recorded and waiting for you to come out in May for the Skills Not Pills Summit, which is May 1st through 30th, 30 days, 30 experts, 30 skills. And you can sign up for the summit at skillsnotpillsmovement.com, and it's free, and you will be able to get Debbie's wisdom and along with our other 29 experts. for this launch of this amazing movement where we're really just opening up this dialogue around stepping into your personal authority with your health and your life and learning how to tune inside to find the answers, and then finding out like all kinds of magical ways that you could be finding out more about yourself when these challenges arise, like a diagnosis. It's not a life sentence, it's an opportunity to learn about yourself. I love that Stacy Lemire says, a diagnosis is not a life sentence.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. And I love the whole summit and the movement. I think it's way overdue and needed. So
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being one of my experts and one of my friends. And we'll see everybody. I think we might have one scheduled on Friday anyway. Start checking the schedule. You'll see the feed. This is happening rapid fire and fast right now. So I'm just rolling with
absolutely.
it.
Awesome. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you
Thank
for
you
doing
so
that.
much, Debbie. And I look
Yeah.
forward to seeing all of you guys on Skills Not Pills Summit. And hope a great day today. Have a great week. It's beautiful outside here in Austin.
Here too.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Bye,
Bye
Debbie.
bye.